For our project, we'll be doing What About Buddhism Leads to Self-Harm, Self-Sacrifice, and Self-Immolation. This is Thich Quang Duc. He is a Vietnamese monk who set himself on fire during the Vietnamese War.
Jataka tales, just as evidence that self harm, self sacrifice, and these ideas have precedence in Buddhist iconography and Buddhist literature, stories, texts, all that sort of thing. The first Jataka tale I'll be talking about is King Shibi. So, in the Jataka tale of King Shibi, a hawk is chasing a dove, and the dove flies into the arms of King Shibi, who is one of the reincarnations of the Buddha before he becomes the Buddha. This is several lives before he becomes the Buddha, but this dove flies into King Shibi's arms, and the hawk claims to the king he should be able to eat the dove because compassion should be spread to the hunter because he's also hungry. But the king doesn't want the dove to die, but he also doesn't want the hawk to starve. So he sacrifices pieces of his own flesh to the hawk in order to feed the hawk and to not let the dove die. And the king keeps shaving flesh from his bones until there's nothing left, and then Indra reveals himself, and the dove is saved, and King Shibi is saved. But this just shows the precedents for self-sacrifice that exist within Buddhist literature, and the idea that while it may seem extreme, there is iconography throughout Buddhist literature, especially in these Jataka tales, that emphasizes donation and emphasizes sacrifice, that relates to the ideas of self-sacrifice as an actual practice and an actual ritual in later Buddhist sects and schools and by Buddhist monks. The Jataka tale of the hungry tigress. In this Jataka tale, the Buddha is a Brahmin, a future Buddha, who currently is not the Buddha. This is one of his past reincarnations, as all Jataka tales are. He is a Brahmin, and he is looking through the forest trying to find a place to set up a school when he comes upon this hungry tigress about to eat her tiger cubs, and she goes to eat the cubs, but the Buddha jumps in the way and sacrifices himself once again, sacrificing his body and not thinking of his own self. These Jataka tales just help to, well, in their original form, they are meant to emphasize dana and donations. In a more extreme reading of them, they can justify self-sacrifice, self-harm, and the self-immolation that we saw from the monk in Vietnam. All help to emphasize these traits within Buddhist monks and Buddhist lay people as well.
Number 2, Buddhist philosophy. The idea of no attachment, also known as antamana, is shown in the section of the Jataka tales where there's self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice can be a very positive thing, and it can be encouraged, but there are more severe and lesser forms. So this kind of brings on the idea of how do you justify setting yourself on fire. The idea of anataman is that there is no attachment and there's no self, so this plays a key role. And Geten says, Buddhist thought suggests that an individual I am a complex flow of physical and mental phenomena, but peel away these phenomena and look behind them, and one just does not find a constant self that one can call one's own. This kind of showcases the idea around anattama. You can easily connect this to the body. Back when I said that there is no self, self is temporary, and existence is non-permanent. This also goes into attachment. This is one way that you can justify self-harm by saying that it demonstrates your lack of attachment to your body, and this kind of upholds the Buddhist ideologies. A practice of all this can be connected to Pure Land Buddhism. Pure Land is a realm where there is no suffering, only pleasure, and one can transcend to this after passing. Pure Land Buddhism is a specific type of practice within the umbrella of Buddhism. There are 48 vows that are made by monastics. I picked out some of the more important ones, like Vow 10. If when I attain Buddhahood, humans and devas in my land should give rise to thoughts of self-attachment, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. Vow 12. If when I attain Buddhahood, my light should be limited, unable to illuminate at least 100,000 kotis of natas of Buddha lands, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. Vow 15. If when I attain Buddhahood, humans and devas in my land should have limited lifespans, except when they wish to shorten them in accordance with their original vows, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. Now, if we want to go ahead and translate some of those into more modern terms, vow 10 could be translated into something like everyone will have no self attachment, which is kind of one of the main big ideas in Buddhism, is to understand that nothing is permanent and to not be attached to things. Vow 12 can be understood as personal illumination. Everybody will emanate this glow in accordance to that Buddhist lighting himself on fire. Because if you are trying to attain the Pure Land after passing, wanting to go to the Pure Land is this like illumination and glowing that you are trying to achieve, which could be said that's why he may have lit himself on fire. Vow 15 could be translated as you can die whenever you want. In other religions and just life in general, it's seen that killing yourself is not a good thing, that is going to be something that lands you in hell, or if you're a fan of Beetlejuice, it says that you will become an afterlife servant. This brings me to my next point, vow 19, which states, if when I attain Buddhahood, sentient beings in the lands of 10 quarters who awaken aspiration for enlightenment, do various meritorious deeds, and sincerely desire to be born in my land, should not, at their death, see me appear before them surrounded by a multitude of sages, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. Now, this can also translate to, if you don't see me in 10 quarters when you die, you are not coming to the Pure Land, which is not something that people want to think about or hear, especially if they've devoted their religious, spiritual life to honoring and worshiping this section of Buddhism to go to the Pure Land. So many on their deathbeds with their relatives and maybe their local monastic will be there with them and kind of try to simulate this at one's moment of dying to encourage going on to the Pure Land. Illuminate. During this ritual of visual meditation for those on their deathbed, they may have been trying to simulate this himself, because being a monastic, you might not necessarily feel like you need another monastic to help you visualize this visual meditation. You can see Gasoline, and this photo was taken in the 60s. In the beautiful blue car in the back, you can see him sort of in this meditative pose with a bunch of other monastics around them. There's not really much known on why he did this, what was his reason. It wasn't really spoken out about. We couldn't ask him questions because, maybe not sadly, he passed, because he obviously made this as his own choice and this was his idea. Now, number 3, counter evidence. Buddha as anti-extreme and anti-asceticism. So, a counter argument that one can make is regarding that self-harm in Buddhism, not a great idea. It's not favorable for reaching nirvana. As said in summary of his life, the mortification of the flesh inhibits its progress by destroying the health of the body, thus negatively affecting the mind that is important for spiritual advancement. Jacob B. and Mitchell 15. This can show how self-harm is not really done to reach nirvana, and this can be a source beforehand relating to karma and sacrifice. Conclusion, overall self-harms, sacrifice, and mutilation all hold precedence in Buddhist framework because of the Jaka tales and the philosophy surrounding the Buddhist thinking, especially related to anatam and the idea of no self. Cases like Thich Duk may be more of the extreme practices, and like in the Jaka tales, where he is cutting off his own flesh. But I think the grounded idea behind this Buddhist ideal and customs and thoughts is something greater and more than we will truly ever be able to understand in our human realm.